Hello guys, welcome once again to Tech with Kobo. So if you are working with virtual machines in VMware Workstation, this tutorial is going to be of great help to you. So today we will walk through the essential virtual machine management task that every user should know, from renaming your VM, doing a disk cleanup, and upgrading the virtual hardware to organizing your VM library, changing the view modes, and mastering the power options of your virtual machine. So whether you are setting up your lab for the first time or managing multiple virtual machines, this video is going to show you how to keep things neat, fast, and efficient. So without wasting much time, let's jump right into it. Alright, so this is the management console of VMware Workstation, as you are seeing. So here we have our library on the left pane. So I have 3 virtual machines displayed in the library. So this is where we organize our virtual machines. Now, when I do not want to box up all my VMs in this library, as in I just have to leave them like that. So imagine you having several files, different files, and then you have only one folder where all of these files are kept. So it's going to mix up. That is why Microsoft systems give you the option to manage your files by using directories. So here in the VM, similar thing can be done. So when I want to put certain VMs into one folder and give it a name to differentiate it from the others, here is the go-to area as in the library where you can do that. So I'm going to right click my computer and then click new folder. So here I'm going to label the folder as cyber_labs. So this is the cyber labs folder that I can drop virtual machines into. So when I want to put a virtual machine in this folder, I just click and drag the VM, just as I'm doing for the Dell Inspiron, point it to the Cyber Labs folder and release my hands from the mouse. So you can see after doing that, you have a plus button beside the folder. When you click it, you see the VMs underneath, or the VMs in that particular folder. I can also put the Dell Latitude VM into it. So I will click and drag, point it to the Cyber Labs folder and release my hand from the mouse, and the VM is dropped into that folder. Now you can right click this folder and then rename it as you want. So I'm going to rename it to just cyber, then press enter. As you can see, when you want to drag a virtual machine from that folder or bring it out of that folder, you just click and drag again. This time you pull it out of the folder, right, just as I have done, and you have it outside of the folder. I can also do same for the Dell Latitude. All right. Okay, so when you want to delete this folder, you right click back on it, then you click remove. So here there are no contents in the folder. That is why it didn't give us any option to delete or remove the entire content within the folder and the folder itself. So I'm going to put the Dell Latitude back into the folder. So here we have the content in the folder. I right click back on it and then I click remove. So you can see we have another option. So this one will just remove the folder. The second option will remove the folder and the content within it, as in it will remove that virtual machine from the library. So here I'll click only remove, and it removes the folder and leaves the virtual machine behind. Okay, so next up is the virtual machine itself. So if I do not want a virtual machine to appear in the library, I right click that VM and then I click remove. So here it is going to remove the Dell Inspiron from the folder. Now let me take you to my directories on the host system. So this is the Dell Inspiron directory. So after removing it, the Dell Inspiron directory or folder will still be there with its configuration files. So I'll click remove. Now when I come back here, you can see that the Dell Inspiron directory still exists with its configuration files. Okay, so removing the VM from the library does not delete the config files, but rather it removes it only from the library. So when I want to bring it back, I'll click file and then I click open, or I just press Ctrl open to bring it back. So I'll navigate to where I have the config files of the VM Dell Inspiron, double click it, and then it pulls up the VMX file. So from here, I just click it and then I click open. So it brings back the virtual machine into library for me to use it for whatever that I want to use it. The next thing is to explore certain other properties of the VM. So I'm going to right click here, and you can see that I have certain features or certain properties active for me to choose from. So when I click manage, I'm going to go to cleanup. So this cleanup will just pull up a reclaimable space, as in the space on the guest operating system that is not being used. So here I'll click cleanup to reclaim 139 megabytes of free space. Sometimes it can go way beyond that to gigabytes. You can have a 4 gigabyte of free space that is not being used, 4 gigabytes, 5 gigabytes or more. So I click cleanup to clean up the disk space. So periodically you have to be doing this cleanup on your virtual machines. So when I come to the Dell Latitude also, and I right click, go to manage, and then I click cleanup, you can see we have 352.9 megabytes to clean up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to clean up that space, or to reclaim that space. So periodically you have to be doing that. This is a feature that Microsoft also has within its operating system, where you can clean up junk files within that virtual machine. So the next step is to rename the virtual machine. So you can just rename the virtual machine in the library. So here I click rename, and then I rename it to Dell Latitude. Dell Latitude. I can also right click this one, go to settings of that VM, or I just click here, edit virtual machine settings. Then here I go to options. You can see Dell Latitude. What I just changed is here. So I just come here, delete Dell, revert it back to the old name. It is going to affect the changes in the library over here. So I'm going to click OK, and you can see that it has changed back to Latitude. So you can use any of the two options to change the name of your virtual machine. Next up is to explore the power options of a virtual machine. So for you to explore the power options of a VM, you can right click the name of the VM, and then you click power. So you see the power options available for you. Or you can right click the name of the VM here, as it has been opened here in the tabs option. You point the cursor to power, and you have the power options available. You can as well come to VM, and then you click power, and you still have the power options also available. Now when you click here also, you still have the power options available. So you have so many areas to go to have your power options. Alright, so here this VM is turned off. So when I right click it and go to power, you can see we have startup guest, and we also have power on and power on to firmware. So startup guest and power on, both of them do the same thing, but power on to firmware will boot you into the firmware of the virtual machine, more or less like you accessing the setup utility of a live system by pressing a key on your keyboard at the time that your computer is booting. So this one does the same thing. So I'm going to click power on to firmware, and it will boot you into the setup utility of the virtual machine. So as you can see, I'm going to switch into full screen over here, and we have our firmware, or the setup utility of a virtual machine. So when you boot here and you point your cursor to the utility area or the firmware area, and it turns into an index finger, you will have to click on your mouse, or you press on your mouse to activate it, so that you can use your keyboard to access the options that you have. So as you can see, what I'm doing right now is being done on my keyboard. I am using the arrow keys to navigate between the options in the VM. So when I want to activate my cursor again, I press the Ctrl plus Alt key to activate the cursor. So this time I right click over here, go back to power, and then click power off. So power off option also is the same as you using the power key or the power button of a system to force a shutdown. So I'm going to click power off again, then it turns off the virtual machine. Now when I come back, still on exploring the power options here, I'm going to choose any of these, startup guest or power on. Like I said earlier, they do the same thing. So this is like you pressing the power key or the power button of a host system or of a live system to turn it on. So I'm going to click power on. So this is going to boot the system to your desktop as always. So as you are seeing, that option is turning on this system. All right, so I'm going to come to HP Ultrabook. So here I'm going to suspend the state, or I'm going to choose another power option to suspend the state. So I'm going to click power and then suspend state. So we can see the state of this virtual machine. It has successfully booted to desktop. We have the file explorer open over here as you are seeing. So this is going to suspend the state. In other words, keep the state of this virtual machine as it is now. It is not going to shut it down, neither is it going to reboot it, but it's going to maintain the state and store it in memory. The beauty of this is that even after the live system or the host system on which the VM is being hosted is rebooted, when the live system is rebooted, you are still going to have the suspend state of this virtual machine, so that you don't need to reboot it or start the VM, which takes quite a bit of time every time. So you can see over here state of the VM. So I'm going to right click, go to power and then click suspend. So suspend guest and suspend down here are the same. They perform the same task. So I'm going to click suspend guest. So this one suspends the state of the VM just as you're seeing. So even when I reboot the live system, I'm still going to have it this way. So I just click on the name of the VM once again, or maybe come here to the power options tab, or go to the VM, go to power, as always, anywhere that you want, and then we have resume guest. If I also come here, I still have the resume guest over here. They do the same thing. So I'm going to right click and then click power, click resume the guest. So it is going to resume the state of the VM without booting it or without restarting it whatsoever. It's just going to resume the state. So you can see it has restored the state of the VM for us successfully. So let's explore more power options. Here we have restart the guest and also reset. Both also do the same thing. So resetting guest, they do the same. So I'm going to click reset guest down here, and we see how that also works. So this is similar to you coming to your live system, clicking power and then clicking restart, which is going to close all the applications, turn off all the services that are running within the operating system, and then boot the system back again. So as you are seeing, it is going through the process of restarting. So here it is welcoming me after the restart. So I said that the two do the same, the restarting of the guest and then also resetting the guest. So let me click back on reset guest, as they do the same thing. Okay, the next thing that we are going to explore in the power option is shutting down the guest. So power off is different from shutting down guest. Power off will just force a shutdown, similar to you using the power key on a live system. And then shutting down the guest also goes through the usual software process, where it gives you a prompt to close an application that has been opened or something that you have not saved. It gives you a prompt to save it before it continues the shutdown process, before your system automatically shuts down, closes everything. That is the most appropriate way of shutting down your system. But sometimes you need to force a shutdown with the power key if it becomes necessary. So like I said, this is similar to coming to your power button on your system and then you click shutdown. So you see the information given, closes all apps and turns off the PC. So this one uses the software approach, which is the best option. So I'm going to right click this one, or let me use the Dell Latitude. So I'll right click the Dell Latitude, go to power, and then I click shutdown. So you can see it is going through the process. So if there was any applications open, the system was going to give you an application which is open and there is something yet for you to save, like working with Microsoft Word, and there is something that you needed to save. It will give you a prompt to save it before it continues the shutdown process. So basically, those are the power options that we have explored. All right. One thing that I left out over here in the library was an option to delete a virtual machine. So when I want to delete a virtual machine, in this case the Dell Inspiron, I'll right click the Dell Inspiron, click manage, and then click delete from this. So before I do that, I'm going to open the Explorer for us to see the location of this Dell Inspiron. So this is the Dell Inspiron. All right, let me close this one. I can also right click here and then go to open VM directory to see the directory of the configuration files of the Dell Inspiron on the system, as in the directory containing the configuration files of the Dell Inspiron. So this is it in this location, and I have Dell Inspiron. So after doing this, the config files will be gone. So I right click, go to manage, and then I click delete from disk. So it gives you a warning because this is irreversible activity. So I click yes. It removes it from the library as well as deletes it from the host system. It deletes the directory containing the config files. So as you can see, the config files have all been deleted. They are no more on the system. So you always have to be careful when you are performing that activity. So next up is the view options of virtual machines, the view options. So here we have the first option over here. So this button here, when clicked, either shows the library or hides it. So here I have the library. As you can see on the left, when I click it, it's going to hide the library. When I click back on it, it brings back the library. So the next option also shows or hides the thumbnail of the virtual machine. So when I click here, this is the thumbnail showing down here for the VMs that have been opened. So the Dell Latitude is open. When I point the cursor to it, you see the name, and then the HP Ultrabook is also open. So when I click back on it, it hides it. Here we have full screen of the VM. So when I click here, you have a full screen of this virtual machine. I like this view option a lot because sometimes it tricks people to think that you are using a live system. So here the toggle button over here also hides or shows the command button. So as you can see, it is showing. When I click it here, it hides the command button. When I want the command button bar, I point my cursor to the very top and it pulls it up. So I click back on this toggle button, the pin over here, to ground it at the very top so that I can explore the options over there. Now, the next thing over here is to show or hide the console view. So as you can see, now we are in full screen. So when I click this, it brings the console view. So this is the console view of the VMware Workstation, where I have my VM over here. So when I click back on inside the active VM here, it takes me to the VM. So that is it also for this button. And I have these two options over here, freeze fetch and keeping the aspect ratio. So sometimes when you click on these ones, you do not see any effect of the two. So unless you'll be toggling between or switching in between the view options, that's when they effectively apply. Okay, so those are the view options for your virtual machine. Now, when you accidentally also close your home button, this is your home button where you are creating a new virtual machine, opening a new VM options also over there. So when you accidentally close this home button and you need it back, you can come here to tabs and then you click go to the home tab to bring it back over here, just as you will see. All right, so the next thing that we are going to do over here also is to increase the virtual machine hardware components or the virtual hardware components of the VM. So here I'll click to select the VM just as I have done, and then click edit virtual machine settings, or I can right click the name of the VM and then go to settings. I can as well do that from here, latitude, and then I click settings. All of them gives you the same pop-up. So here I have the components available, or the virtual hardware components available. So if I want to increase the memory size to 4 gigabytes, I just click on the bar over here to select it. If I want to increase it to 8, you just click to select it. Now it depends on the amount of physical memory capacity that your system has. You cannot be allocating larger spaces to your virtual machine when you do not have enough space on the live system or on the whole system. So you have to take note of that. Now I'm going to leave it to 4 gigabytes, or I'm going to change it to 4 gigabytes. If I come to processes, I can also select the number of cores, or increase the number of cores to 4 cores over here. But once again, it depends on the available physical cores that your host machine has. Okay, if I come to the hard disk also, I can expand the capacity by clicking here. But before I do that, let's check the size. So here we have 32 gigabytes chosen for the virtual hard drive at the time that the virtual machine was being created. We have a system free space of 137 gigabytes. This is the free space on the system, or on the whole system where the virtual hard drive is being hosted. Then the maximum size is 32. So this side of the virtual hard disk is increasing as the different files are being copied to it. So here I can expand the size by clicking on expand. So I'm going to expand it to 33, because if I increase it, it will take a longer time before it completes. So I'll increase it to 33 gigabytes and then click expand. So it says the disk was successfully expanded, you must repartition, blah blah blah. And then I click OK. Now if you check over here, you can see that it has increased to 33 gigabytes. Here as well, increased to 33 gigabytes. Now if I had chosen a larger size, it would have taken quite a bit of time to complete, where you see a progress bar and all of that. So I'm going to click OK over here, and you see here that the specs of this virtual machine has been increased accordingly. Memory changed to 4 gigabyte, processors to 4 virtual cores, and then hard disk to 33 gigabytes. Now let us also take note that this VM wasn't turned on at the time that the virtual hardware components were being tweaked or were being increased. So if the VM is powered on, it is different. When you want to increase the sizes, the hard disk, for instance, you cannot expand it. You cannot choose virtual cores, or you cannot increase the virtual cores. So let's see how that also works. When I right click this one and come to settings, this VM, as you can see, is turned on. That is the HP Ultrabook. So here you can see that I cannot scale it down. I cannot bring the memory down. When I click on them, it doesn't work. So when I click on the 16, you see it gives me the chance to increase it. So when I click OK right now, it is going to increase the size to 16 gigabytes. When I click back on the 8, which was the size of the memory already, that one also works. But I cannot bring it down, or I can't increase it. So that is it for the memory. Sorry, I can increase it, but I cannot bring it down. I cannot decrease the size of the memory. Now when I come to processors, that one is completely grayed out. I cannot make any choice over there. When I go to hard disk as well, here also it's completely grayed out. I can't do anything to it. So let's take note of that. Okay. The next thing to do is to defragment your disk. Defragment your disk. So after expanding the disk also, you can defrag it when the computer is off. So here I'll click defragment the disk, and you can see it's going through the process of defragging the disk to remove certain fragments that have been spread across the hard drive or the virtual hard drive to improve the performance of the system. So this is very similar to you performing disk defragmentation on the disk. Now that thing only works on traditional hard drives. On NVMe or on solid state drives, you don't defrag them, but you trim them. Okay, that is the difference between the two. All right, so let's see, or let's wait for the system to go through the process of defragmenting the disk. So if you have so many fragments on the drive, obviously it's going to take a bit of time to complete, like you are seeing in my case. Okay, so it's done. This defragmentation successfully completed. So these things improve the performance of the virtual hard drive, the disk cleanup, and the disk defragmentation. So periodically, you have to be doing them. All right, so I'm going to click OK to effect the changes. So I left out this view option over here. So when you click the view option here for a virtual machine that has been powered on, you see the full screen that we chose over here. You have it here. You have the console view, you have the stretch to guest or stretch guest, and then we have fit guest now. So this is going to fit it to the live system. And then we have fit window now. We have auto size, which is chosen to automatically fit to guest. We have center guest. We have auto fit to window and all of these options. So you can make a choice out of all of them. And then here we have customize, where we have the library, the thumbnail. So when you check or when you uncheck these boxes, it's going to remove them from the bar over here, or from the command bar at the top over here. So when you click them, it will be removing the tabs, the toolbar, and what have you from there. And then also we have the thumbnail options, where we have the open virtual machines, folder view virtual machines, and all of that. So all of these ones are options that you can explore under the view properties or the view options. So here we have screenshots, sending control or delete option to the virtual machine. So when I click here, it's going to send this control or delete option to the virtual machine screen. So if you want to lock it, you click lock to lock the screen, and all of the other options that were available over there, you can explore amongst them. The next thing, or the last thing that we are going to look at, is the hardware compatibility of the VM. So when you come to the Dell Latitude, you can see that it is stating here that upgrade this virtual machine. What that means is that the hardware compatibility option, or the version that was chosen, is lower than the most current version. But when I come to the HP Ultrabook, let me shut it down. Power off. So when I come to the Ultrabook, okay, let me just leave it to shut down and then come back here. So when I right click this one, go to manage, and then I go to change hardware compatibility, and then I click next. So here you see that the workstation is 17.x. So what that means, the reason why we are having upgrade this virtual machine is that we have the most current version available, which is the 17.5 or later. So when you want to upgrade it, you have to make a choice for the most current version, and then you click next. So here it says create a clone. So it is thinking that, or it may be guessing that when you're going through the process of changing the hardware compatibility version, maybe it's going to create a problem with the VM. So you have to create a clone before you continue the process. So I'm not going to do that. I'll click alter this virtual machine to change the hardware configuration. So I click next, and then the changes are applied. I click finish. So this one changes it to the most current hardware compatibility version, as you are seeing. But for the Ultrabook, it was current. It was very, very current. You can also scale it down to the lowest version. So I'm going to right click, go to manage, and then click change hardware compatibility model. So let's say that you have imported a VM, or you have backed up, you have restored the backup version of a VM that was exported, but the VM came along with the most current version, which is the 17.5 or later at the time that this video was being recorded. But your system does not have that capacity to support the most current version. So you need to scale it down by choosing any of the lowest versions available. So in my case, I'm going to choose 17.x, click next, click alter this virtual machine, click next again, and then I click finish. So the moment I do that, you see that we have upgraded this virtual machine showing over here for you. So what you're going to do here determines on, or is dependent on, the available hardware components that you have on your system. So that brings us to the end of this interesting video. We have covered a lot. So this is a complete tour of your virtual machine management in VMware Workstation. So from performance tweaks to better organization, these tips will help you work smarter in your virtual machine. So if you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share it with your fellow tech enthusiasts. If you have any questions or suggestions or any feedback, kindly leave them in the comment section below. I will always enjoy hearing from you to improve in the next video. So thank you so much for tuning in to Tech with Kobo. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep building.